There are a lot of political ideologies that don't work very well outside of paper. Now obviously all but the almighty anarcho-primitive dangism are doomed to fail, but today I'll be setting my sights on one particular brand of republicanism and what it did to a town in New Hampshire. If you're unfamiliar with the libertarian ideology, the best way to sum it up would be, what if the purge, but only for Jeff Bezos? Unsummed up, the goal of libertarianism is to create a utopia in which there's no government but somehow still a capitalist system in which corporations are completely unregulated and social programs don't exist. Now, I know that sounds like an anarchist stoned out of his mind explaining the plot to Cruelty Squad, but I can assure you it's a real political ideology with hundreds of thousands of patrons. Here's a clip of their presidential candidate getting laughed at and booed for saying driver's licenses should be a thing.
People before they drive.
I don't know how any of the crowd actually got to the debate because they've clearly never driven on any road ever, but that's beside the point. So, what happens when you combine the internet, arguably the worst human invention since sarin gas, and a bunch of hicks whose voting tendencies begin and end with, "Ain't no government gonna take my pickup truck full of guns"? You get the town of Grafton, New Hampshire, the site of an attempted coup d'etat as a result of a kick-started vanilla ISIS. The Free State Project, as it was called, was an attempt to take over New Hampshire and turn it into a quite literal lawless wasteland. 20,000 libertarians signed up to move to New Hampshire, and almost a quarter of them didn't back out when it came time to do so. They soon established a base of operations in Grafton, New Hampshire, and proceeded to do what libertarians do best, screech like baboons until everybody else gets tired and leaves. Now, it's best to point out, Grafton was a small town. There were about 1,200 residents at time of takeover, and a good amount of them were right-wingers to begin with. So about 2,000 douchebags who missed Burning Man by about half a country showing up on their front door would be cause for alarm. Of course, the Freetowners being the demographic in those Am I Being Detained videos on YouTube had more lethal weapons than Richard Donner at an NRA baby shower. The townspeople were at a disadvantage, to say the least. You may be asking yourself, with the passing of so many bills at the time to target online coordinated terrorist attacks, why didn't the FBI step in to arrest some of the people actively plotting to overthrow an entire US state? At the beginning, a good amount of Grafton's population was in favor of these colonists joining their town and sprucing it up a bit with their cultured decor of beer bottles and more beer bottles, but as things started to deteriorate, the opinion soured. On one hand, we had a small town that wanted the state government to leave them alone, and on the other hand, we had people like one of the original head honchos, Larry Pendarvis, who is on record of being pro-dueling, pro-organ trafficking, and a huge proponent of consensual cannibalism. Hey, when your political position has such proponents as Armin Maiwes and fucking Dracula, I think we got a clear debate winner. Things fell apart pretty quickly. City officials were harassed into resigning, the town budget was slashed to hundreds of thousands a year, which, even for a small town, is a paltry sum, and crime started to skyrocket. Of course, the libertarian solution to the potholes in the road, the lack of basic utilities, and the litter on the streets is that there needs to be even less government. Such is the horrible cycle of the Freetown Project. There's only one step, and it is freedom. Scribbled on a post-it note in the back of an RV. Alas, despite the libertarians' best efforts, the lack of government did not produce a utopia, but a trash heap of a town with no government services whatsoever, including, as it would become important, wildlife services. You see, New Hampshire is mostly boonies. There's some cities here and there, but once you start heading north, it's forests all the way down. Small, nature-loving towns in those forests typically have quite a few rangers and animal control experts to keep the animals from wandering into the town in the first place, and if they do, get them out. So the new Grafton government does what any libertarian would do and starts removing those as well. Because the free market would provide for that, just like it provides coats to people living in Antarctica. The town starts to have a big problem. A bear problem. There's lots of bears, a lot of bears. And just as the Graftoners' luck would have it, these bears are unusually aggressive to humans. You see, despite media portrayal, bear attacks are relatively rare, and most bears just want to be left alone and will leave you alone if you scare them. The bears in Grafton? Hell no, these bears are juggernauts that are ready to throw hands, or pause. Bears start to attack anybody and everybody in the town because if libertarians like anything more than weed and guns, it's grilling! The town basically becomes a bear buffet, with New Hampshire's average bear attack rate of 1 per century skyrocketing because of Grafton alone. Now, the freethinkers of Grafton are a strapped bunch, so you would think that the bears wouldn't be an issue. Libertarian kids learn how to fire a shotgun before they become embryos, so the Graftoners can deal with a few bears, right? No, of course not, because as it turns out, if you don't have a trained professional willing to risk their life to handle a situation they're trained to deal with, it doesn't work out very well. So, what do? They feed the bears, of course. Now, I don't know if you've ever encountered a bear or spoken to anyone who spends any amount of time in the woods, but there's a lot of good reasons not to feed bears. A. Don't feed the bears. B. If you do feed the bears, they will come back for more. C. If the bears come back for more and you don't have food, trust me, you do. D. Don't feed the fucking bears. I assume that if you're in chapter books or above, this should be common knowledge, but given that there was nobody in Grafton willing to make a law against feeding the bears would keep coming back for more. The idea behind the town dictates that whoever was feeding the bears could be dueled to the death, but nobody wants to be the one to cap a 90-year-old who loves to give donuts to that nice big dog that comes around every day. Not helping the situation was the fact that anytime someone suggested bear-proofing the trash cans in town, the heads of the Free State Project members popped up like meerkats and the baboon screeching Biana knew. Because it's my God-given right to chuck a turkey sandwich to a black bear the size of my car outside your house, and if you have a fucking problem with that, I'll see you outside town hall with your best home gang acts at high noon. So that's where we're at now. A stalemate of epic proportions between bear and human alike. The bear-infested town still has plenty of inhabitants, a good amount of them furry, nope, not that kind, and serves as an example of a lot of things, really. It serves as an example of why most people realize laws are kind of necessary once they get past their middle school years. It serves as an example of what idiots with guns are capable of if not properly kept in check by government organizations. It serves as an example of why feeding bears is a really, really bad idea. Overall, town sucks. 2 out of 10. Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked the content, then go ahead and hit that little red button there. The one that says subscribe, you know, the one. Next video is the 10th episode, so I'm hoping to do something big for that one. I've been doing a lot of short episodes lately, so hopefully we got something big for you. Probably be coming later this month. Hope so. See ya.